Hi everyone, it's Last Angry Geek. I thought we'd take a few minutes to talk about Star Wars The Force Awakens, and there will be spoilers aplenty in this review, so fair warning. This is a very good movie. I enjoyed it very much. It's a surprisingly emotional film. I found myself crying on the way home, and I was like, wait, what is this salty discharge? This is Harrison Ford's movie. He's not just part of the cast like he was in the original trilogy. He's very much one of the stars of the new film. Carrie Fisher just has a very small part. Mark Hamill only appears at the very end. I assume he'll have a much larger role going forward in the next two films, as I assume Carrie Fisher might. It's about 30 years later, and not much has changed. There's still an empire, although now it's called the First Order, and the Republic exists, but they're kind of secretly funding Leia's resistance. So even though there's a Republic, there's still a resistance. They've made Leia a general, and she's now running like a guerrilla group to come in and destabilize this First Order. So it's like, kind of like Leia's running the NSA or something like that, or the FBI, just going around enforcing American policy through guerrilla actions. But all the original actors are very good. Even Mark Hamill doesn't have any lines, but I enjoyed his appearance at the end. R2-D2, they didn't use much. C-3PO, they didn't use much. He has a very small part. BB-8 was very kid-friendly, a real crowd pleaser. I like how you can really just make inanimate objects kind of come alive with just a few simple motions, like where he's kind of looking. And it's just a head pivoting, but he was enjoyable. I'm very glad they did that as a practical effect. There were a lot of much more practical effects in this one than there were CGI, and I think that really helped kind of connect it to the original trilogy. One of the big problems about the prequels is George Lucas tried to fit so much story in here. Here, I'm almost of the idea that J.J. Abrams was the opposite. He didn't put enough story in there. There was enough story, but I would have liked a little more, One of my complaints about the trailers was you didn't really know what was going on. Would it have killed them to show the new giant planet-sized Death Star? They showed that laser in, the final trailer, but, we didn't really get much of it. Let's talk about the new characters, starting with Leader Snoke, was it? By Andy Serkis, who I assume we'll get more of in the next thing. They fooled me with that thing. I thought, oh my god, he's a giant. And it was just a hologram. It was kind of like the whole Emperor's head talking to little Vader in Empire Strikes Back. But there's something going on with that character. Did anyone notice the scars on his head kind of looked like Vader's? Is it possible he's a clone of Darth Vader? Probably not, but we'll find out. Poe, the pilot. Did anyone else buy his story? Like, oh, I ejected. And why did your jacket remain in there? Why didn't he see a body? I don't know. He was fine. He was a little bit of the arrogant, brash pilot that Han Solo used to be. I almost rather he would have died in the TIE Fighter, because really his coming back at the end didn't really serve much of a purpose, I thought. Captain Phasma, played by Gwendolyn Christie. I was disappointed she never took the helmet off. I mean, you heard it was a woman's voice. And they just threw down a trash compactor chute and let her get crushed to death? That was a little dark. Presumably she crawled her way out and she'll be back in the next one. Can't remember the character's name, it'll appear right here. But the little CGI non-Yoda, she's not a Jedi, but she's been running a bar for 1,000 years, and she's Chewbacca's girlfriend, and I guess the Christmas special really is not canon anymore. It says Chewbacca no longer has a wife, or maybe he and his wife split up, who knows. It seems to be the story. Marriage is splitting up over the last 30 years, because Han and Leia aren't together anymore. They had a kid, he went evil, they split up, they get back together for a little bit at the end. I actually like the interaction between Han and Leia as one of the best things of this movie. There's kind of just all this unspoken pain, but even under that, there was all that emotion from the time they were together, that these were two people who loved each other and then kind of got driven apart by circumstances beyond their control, and then are just kind of now realizing that, it was probably a mistake, but we did what we did to survive all this pain. Carrie Fisher, she was decent. John Boyega, is that the name, who played Finn? We've never really gotten into the post-Clone Wars Stormtroopers, so I was wondering, is he a clone? Is he... He claims to have been raised in a Stormtrooper camp from childhood, like they kidnapped him and then put him through Stormtrooper training. That's the Master Chief story. Are the Spartans from Halo really just Stormtroopers? liked seeing that there was at least one stormtrooper who had like PTSD, who just like saw all this violence and just couldn't go through with it. Just no matter how hard they train some people, they're just not going to be able to make them into soldiers. He enjoyed the chemistry he had with Rey to a degree. I mean, I kind of felt they didn't really try and force a romance on them. There's that one scene like, do you have a boyfriend? And it was like, what? No, what? It just kind of seemed out of place, but there was affection there. There was hugging, which needed to come later, Han said. Getting back to Han, like I said, Harrison Ford, this was his film. And they killed him. They killed Han Solo, and that's why it was so emotional for me. At the end, I'm driving home, and one of my childhood icons has just died. I was like, it really messed me up more than I realized, because like I said, I'm driving home, and all of a sudden, I'm crying. I'm like, wait, what's going on? And it's like, oh, right, this character I've loved for 30 years is dead now. It's like, what if Mickey Mouse died in the next Kingdom Hearts movie? Would you be able to keep playing, or would you have to turn it off and no? I know he's a fictional character, but still, Star Wars was a huge part of my childhood. I think what worked for that death scene, what actually made it the most emotional, was that it immediately cuts to Chewbacca, and he's the one. He's doing the no! But it's Chewbacca, so he's roaring, and that's really kind of what made it hurt so much. Seeing that death, I'm getting choked up again, seeing that death through his best friend's eyes. Peter Mayhew had a lot to do in this film. This was a lot of Chewbacca, and I'm glad Mayhew was up for it. And at the end, he's the one flying the Falcon now with Rey, although he lets her be the pilot, and I think he was okay with that, because he knew Han liked her and wanted to kind of bring her on board. The real star of this movie is Daisy Ridle as Rey. She was great. She really had a lot of charisma. She really had these great scenes with Harrison Ford where they're kind of bonding over the ship and the technology stuff. There's that one scene where she's sitting in the desert just looking up at the sky. She puts on that X-Wing helmet, and for a minute you just see the little kid she was when she came here to Jakku, this childhood idea that her family's going to come back for her that she's still holding on to the point of self-delusion. That there was a kind of an innocence to her that I really liked. Is she Luke's daughter? I think so, but I guess we'll find out. They didn't say for sure. Kylo Ren, Adam Driver. I liked him. He did a lot of acting through the voice because he wore the mask for most of the time. I like that they didn't make him straight out evil right away. They said he was kind of like the anti-Vader, because the evil guy who turns good. Here's the guy who's fighting with his own goodness, who's fighting the light side, but wants to be evil. He wants the power that his grandfather had. And I like they didn't just come out and say, oh, yes, it's Han and Leia's son. They built up to that. They said his father's Han Solo. You probably knew it was Leia, but then he's talking to the mask and calls him grandfather, and that just confirmed it. He's asking his grandfather to give him another vision. And then you see Rey have a vision when she touches Darth Vader's lightsaber. I like how they just kind of build those two stories side by side and let you infer from the other what happened to him. He had a vision at some point and showed him this power he could have, and that's kind of what led him into the dark side. She had a vision that leads her into the light. So Adam Driver and Daisy Ridle were really great. This was an incredibly well-cast film. John Boyega was good too, but I think Riddle is the star of this film. She's going to have a great career ahead of her. She really portrayed all this loneliness and longing and compassion subtly. She didn't hit you over the head with it, and I think J.J. Abrams did a really good job. I think he relied on the right people to help him get this story made. There's a lot of really just pure Star Wars moments. I don't mean like Finn finding the probe or activating the holographic table in the Millennium Falcon. I mean BB-8 rolling down the desert, and all of a sudden these two eyes come up out of the sand and look at him. That was pure Star Wars. The minute I saw that, I knew it was going to be okay. I knew this film is Star Wars. Just alien eyes appearing out of nowhere to look at a droid as it rolls past. That is Star Wars to a T. Max von Sydow was good, but I kind of wish we knew who he was. We don't know why he knew where Luke was. We don't know how he knew Princess Leia. It was he in the rebellion. They never really say. But, it's kind of like casting Christopher Lee in the prequels. Like getting Peter Cushing in the original film. I like that they're bringing in these elder statesman actors of the genre to be in these movies. Kind of like how they brought Michael Douglas and Robert Redford to be in the Marvel Universe. Maybe the only other complaint story-wise that it seemed to all happen a little too fast, even though it was like an over 2-hour film. But it's like, land on the planet, meet Han Solo, join the rebellion, blow up the planet. I mean, that's kind of the same story they went with in A New Hope. But we knew about the Death Star right away. We find out about the new Death Star planet about 2/3 through the film. So it seemed like that element could have been introduced sooner. We could have known about it right from the start, about why the New Order was such a threat, other than they're just kind of following in the Empire's ideals. Like I said, maybe The Force Awakens could have used a little more story, but then I think they learned their lesson from the prequels. I really like this film. Better than the prequels, maybe as good as A New Hope, maybe even a little better than A New Hope. Because when you go back and watch A New Hope, it is kind of a dry film. But is it as good as Empire and Jedi? I don't know. Time will tell about the sequel trilogy. But I enjoyed it very much. I think everyone should go see it. Judging by the box office records, everyone has gone to see it. Go see it again. I liked it. I'm probably going to go see it again. Thanks for joining me. This has been Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, The Last Angry Geek.